Parade Commander. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and so proud to see a person like that having a go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'd like to welcome one and each to this, our mid-morning service. Today we are honouring the fallen and all those that took part in the landing at Gallipoli. One of the most inspiring stories is the battle was that of Simpson and his donkey, coupled with the enormous amount of bravery and service achieved by the medical orderlies and in particular the Red Cross nurses. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I would like to call on Brodie Campbell, who with visual will narrate the stories of the wonderful dedication and work of the Red Cross and the Red Cross nurses, and of Simpson and his faithful donkey.
Anzac's most unlikely heroes. A defenceless ship, a defiant nurse, a donkey, and a deserter, defining the Anzac spirit. It is 4 a.m. on Sunday, the 25th of April, 1915. I am the hospital ship Gascon, and in darkness, I slip into place 300 yards off a small cove near Gabatape in the Dardanelles. Silence is vital as landing barges are paddled quietly towards the beach. My lights are out and I don't even lower my anchor to remain undetected. As a hospital ship, I'm hardly needed. The Anzacs will land and overrun Johnny Turk and then march right through to Constantinople, where there are plenty of hospitals. I have just 7 nurses, a matron, a doctor, and some Indian orderlies. I'm the only hospital ship here, and I can take 400 patients. But I didn't expect to be busy today. How wrong they are. I witness a military disaster in the many journeys I will make to and from what will become Anzac Cove to the hospitals. I am credited with saving over 8,000 Anzac lives. I define the Anzac spirit of steely determination.
I am Sister Muriel Wakeford. I am a 27-year-old nursing sister from Wollongong. As dawn breaks on the 25th of April, I stand at the ready on the deck of Gascon in my crisp white veil and grey nurse's uniform. Only yesterday, the 24th of April, I was assigned to the hospital ship Gascon, and I was glad, because that meant I would get to watch out for our boys. I borrow a set of field glasses, and through these glasses I notice that the beach is narrow and surrounded by what I describe in my diary as fearsomely high cliffs. I watch the Australian soldiers, young, athletic men, row silently toward the narrow beach. I am one of just 8 women to become eyewitnesses to the deadly and bloody military disaster that will spawn the legend of Anzac. I see the carnage unfold in front of me. It comes so quickly and so easily to the Turks. I watch in horror as bullets hail down on the Anzacs, and they drop like flies. I see the sea turn red with blood and corpses floating face down in the water. The beach, like the water, is littered with dead and wounded soldiers. The roar of the Turkish machine guns is deafening, and sprays of bullets ricochet off the water and come right near the ship. The Gascon rocks violently from falling shells. Let me quote from my diary. Our poor boys attempted to storm the high ground, but many were wounded or killed by the guns of the Turks. Others rushed towards the cliffs to shelter from a hail of Turkish bullets. We could see wounded men lying in gullies and hope stretcher bearers could reach them before they bled to death. Those men the stretcher bearers could not reach must have died a painful and lonely death. By 9 a.m, the first of the wounded arrive on board Gascon. By midday, Gallipoli was an inferno. In my diary, I record that the sky grew dark with smoke. I am appalled at the lack of organisation. There seems to be no direction. By 4 p.m, there are 560 wounded on board Gascon, and at dusk the ship's captain, concerned about overcrowding, leaves for Egypt. It breaks my heart that we leave hundreds behind on the shore, with no painkillers, no doctors, and no medicine. Many of the wounded are moved onto the transport ships or horse boats that are still covered in mule dung, and they are left to die of disease. In the meantime, on the Gascon, it is chaos. There are so few of us and so much suffering. Let me read from my diary. 28th of April, just off duty. We have had a terrible time, and no one but ourselves will know how we feel about everything that has happened. Rest assured, we have done, all of us, our best. 2 of us are doing night duty, Sister Burham and I. We do half the ship each, with a number of orderlies. The day staff come on very early and go off very late, and in that way get through a fair amount. I snatch sleep when I can, and often that is on a chair on the deck. I reflect on what I have seen and record in my diary. It was scandalous that so many wounded men perished from infected wounds who might otherwise have been saved. I became angry when the truth is not being told back home. People back home are being told that the Turk is weak and the war will be short. I see not just a military disaster, but a medical catastrophe. I determine I will do something to set things right, and I record in my diary. We were warned that our letters would be censored, and that is why my letters are so vague. But I am going to chance something decent. I disobey orders and take photographs and detailed diary notes of what is going on. I photograph the burials at sea of those wounded boys who don't make it back to hospital in Egypt. I sent my diaries back home and my mother takes them to be published. The editor of the Illawarra Mercury defies the strict censorship rules to tell a little of the real story and to plead for more nurses to come and help in the war effort. I define the Anzac spirit because I will not see a mate let down. I will stand up and speak up for my mates.
I am Duffy the donkey. I am a humble beast of burden. I can be stubborn too. But I'm tough, sure-footed, hardy and stronger than any horse pound for pound. That makes me the natural choice for the terrain of Gallipoli. I am under the care of the 21st Kohat Indian Mountain Artillery Battery, who have the only fodder for Gallipoli. After most of the transport work is done, we donkeys graze, unconcerned about the fighting. Within days of the Anzac landing, some of us are conscripted to the new role of carrying wounded soldiers. I formed a partnership with a man the Indians call Bahadur, the bravest of the brave. Others call him Murphy or Jack. I survived Gallipoli and am evacuated with the Indian forces. I define the spirit of the Anzacs. I'm tough and determined.
I am John Simpson Kirkpatrick, a lover of animals and a humanist. Some call me Murph or Jack. Before Gallipoli, I was a 3 times deserter, and I ended up here by accident, trying to get a free passage back home to England. You see, I deserted the British Army in England, came to Australia with the Merchant Navy, and deserted in Newcastle. I've worked as a stockman, a cane cutter, a coal miner, and whatever else a larrikin could turn his hand to in Australia. Eventually, I joined coastal trading ships in Australia, as I deserted them in Perth. I joined the military medical service to get a free passage back to Mother England. I dropped my surname, Kirkpatrick, and enlisted as John Simpson to avoid being detected as a deserter. I trained at the Black Boy Hill training facility near Perth, where, as usual, I played the larrikin. But the last laugh is on me. I was sent to Egypt instead of England, and now I've been allotted the role of stretcher bearer for the field ambulance. I'm amongst the first to land at Kapatepi. What a disaster. Half of the first wave of our soldiers are killed or wounded. Now, they've decided to reduce the stretcher bearer details from 6 men to 2 men. This is madness. See that donkey grazing in the gully? You know what? I can do more by myself with the help of this donkey. Let's do it. Technically, I'm going to have to desert again. This better be the last time. I'm going to have to camp with the Indians instead of my own unit. They're the only ones with feed for the donkeys. It's taken 4 days, but my commanding officer just can't argue with the number of boys that Duffy and I have gotten back to the beach. The old man will tolerate my absence on condition. I check with the unit every couple of days to be ticked off the roll. My job? To get the wounded from the battlefield to the beach. From the clearing stations, the wounded are then transported to the HMHS Gascon, and those poor boys are taken to proper hospitals in Egypt. Here is a picture of the first casualty clearing station on the beach, taken to the 2nd of May, 1915. You know, I've lost a few of the boys and a couple of donkeys to Turkish bullets in the last 3 weeks. Today is the 19th of May. The Turkish machine gun bullet has my name on it. I am killed instantly. I define the spirit of the Anzacs because I am improvised to get the job done. I see my duty as more important than protocol. As my headstone says, I died that others may live. Let us never forget the spirit of the Anzacs.
Thank you very much. I'd like now to introduce Reverend Barry Reid for scripture readings and prayers.
From the Book of Wisdoms, chapter 3, verses 1 to 9, we read, "The souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and no torment shall touch them. I give you a new commandment. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you also should love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another."
They went with songs to the battle. They were young, true of eye, steady, straight of limb and aglow. They were staunch to the end, against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall not grow old, as we are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. The going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
Thank you.